Okay, yeah. Once again, all right, that thing is weird. There's a timer on behind probably where my picture is or my big giant dome is that you don't see. But anyways, yo, thanks for hanging out with me, everybody. For those of you that want to, anyway, this is BitPusher back in the house. Um, yeah, so this is it, man. It took me a minute to figure out the software here for audio loopback to where I could have both my webcam and its audio recording so I could speak, and at the same time have my software, my music software, be able to record directly into the stream at the same time, so I would have perfectly clear audio. Rocking the Curtis Blow shirt today because that's my like a childhood hero. So, anyways, now that this is all working, this is the type of shit I'm gonna do once in a while. I'll just vlog it. It's sort of my little journey here, I guess, through making my album. If I even do, I get lazy, and like I've said in the past, I'm not a dedicated YouTuber, so just whenever, if ever, it depends. But yeah, so thought I would chat a bit today before I fire up my software here and talk about some random things, semi-random. That is my trackers. I love trackers very much. Didn't start out that way though. I'm working on a new album now. I mean, just started it and very slowly. I don't know if it'll even be done this year or not. I kind of hope so. But yeah, my last album was in 2018 called Who is BitPusher, which I called it that because I felt like I could really be me, like completely uninhibited. I didn't feel like I was working under the constraints I had in the past. That'll be if I do this next one and complete it, that'll be I think, sixth album. Like everything I've done is on actual CDs, which are sold through Amazon, and then I'm on the music stores. But let's think for a second here. So back in 2010 is when I first started tinkering with making my own music. Whereas prior to that, I used to DJ a bit locally and at clubs. I was actually spinning vinyls too, but just mixing music, not a showboat turntablist and shit. But um, so 2010, I did pixelize the system with the Atari 2600, and then followed that EP up with Modus Operandi. So if I'm going to count the EPs as releases, we'll say that's two. Then I had discovered Nano Loop for iOS, um, which was kind of fun and attractive to me because it was a sequencer and just a sort of a miniature music studio that was unusual in design and could work with digital samples. So it was definitely a different thing than the Game Boy Nano Loop that people knew. But so three, that'd be Geek Music and the Love of the Bass CD in 2014, right? Let's see. Then I wanted to get a mixing console, so I got a 16 channel Xenix, Behringer Xenix. I was trying to learn how to do some things with that and a Game Boy. But since I had prior to all that, didn't really have much knowledge in the way of recording and mixing and post processing my audio, I went back just as a tribute to myself, really, and redid all, or not reperformed, but kind of remastered all of my original Atari tunes, plus some mixes that people had done for me over the course of time. Slapped it all into one compilation. So if I'm going to count that as a release, that'd be four. Then number five is something for me to talk about. 2016 Shades of Grey handheld. That joint was done with a RCA Pro Sound Modified DMG01 Nintendo Game Boy. I actually have two, but yeah, that was a big step, which leads up to what I'm talking about to talk about here. Because prior, I was always like intimidated by trackers. I had seen people using shit like Fruity Loops and then bigger stuff like Logic and Cubase, and I don't know anything about any of that shit. I have no clue. I messed with a demo of it once and was like, nope, done with that. Then there's trackers, and I was like, because I was really wanting to do the Game Boy thing because I had done some chip tune and I did a bass CD. Kind of wanted to get back to the original BitPusher, but the Atari thing, I'll describe that process on my website, but it's very, very tedious. Um, There's no quick and easy way to do it, suffice to say, and nothing efficient. Like it was all hand constructed waves. But Shades of Grey handheld was done with LSDJ. So here's me intimidated as hell by trackers, right? And I just started tinkering with it, and I was like, I'm going to make myself figure this out. Even though I kind of hate trackers, I think this shit looks overly complicated and all that. I sat down and just kept doing it. And eventually, once I started figuring it out a bit, I started liking it a little bit. To this day, I don't call myself good at it, and I still don't have a great understanding of how to just make up tables to get some of the sounds that you can. But I used a lot of online resources, the patch book, and some other things to help. But nonetheless, I at least got decent enough, comfortable enough to uh, create an album. So that got me into trackers. That made me realize I can do it. I can actually do it, and I liked it because a lot of people don't do that nowadays. I know there are people using trackers out there, but just not near as much as DAWs. So I kind of decided to make it one of my missions to spite those people, spite everybody with their DAWs, and keep it super old school demo scene underground, and roll with trackers. Anyways, so where are we at there? Got the three, the compilation, Shades of Grey handheld. Holy smokes, I've been at this a lot longer than I realized. And then Digital Bass 2017, which that one I did in Nano Loop because I knew I could generate my own bass tones with Nano Loop. I knew exactly how to do it. And this time, unlike how I did Geek Music back in 2014, this one I actually used a cable and a splice and ran my iPhone through my mixer because it's you can output from Nano Loop on iOS into WAV format, but I wanted to, now that I knew how to better process my audio, I wanted to make a real bass CD because I've loved bass music since I was a little kid. Like I shit you not, I used to collect those cassettes in mass because I love instrumental hip hop and electronica, um, digital bass shit made for the car. So I was like, for once, I'm going to set my foot into the arena of some of the people that I greatly admired, like my most favorite Bass 305, and then, like DJ Magic Mike, Tech Master PEB, stuff like that. So I'm going to do a bass CD this time. Nano Loop is incredibly small and limited, very, very limited, but I wanted to challenge that and work in those constraints. So Digital Bass 2017. So there we go with, okay, 6. And then finally, I had quit music and was done for a while, and ended up sometime after Shades was done. I had pondered doing another Game Boy album. I was like, that was such a workout. It burned me out getting through that, and I was just kind of done with music. I was dicking around with desktop trackers because I had been looking at some Amiga stuff and all that. And I mean, I grew up with the Mac. I never had seen an Amiga in person when I was a kid, didn't even know about Amiga until much later. And now that I'm, modern day here and now, I look back and I mean, they seem to me to be beautiful machines, and I think Amigas are awesome. I hope I might get a hold of one day. But I didn't come from the Amiga scene. So Pro Tracker, has been revitalized and reborn in the modern day in a few different ways. And that was the first one I came across, and I tried it, and I got to be honest, I did not like it one bit. I don't like Pro Tracker. Then it bounced around to some others: Impulse Tracker, Schism Tracker, Piggy Tracker, Little Piggy, and I don't like them. I mean, they're plenty capable and functional, but I don't care for them, right? So I was sort of done with that. I'd never quite gotten around to Fasttracker until I found Milkytracker and was playing with it, was making an honest effort to just make some noise with it. No songs, no full length. I just wanted to dick around. And Milkytracker was the first desktop tracker that I tried that I liked it. I liked the way the key commands work, and I liked the feel of it. So I started tinkering with that, and before I knew it, I produced a song, which led to another song, which led to another. And with the amount of channels and the freedom to change pitch and tone with just the keyboard, playing my keyboard like a keyboard, I was hooked. Fit me like a glove. And yeah, so I felt completely uninhibited. And so when it came to making music from coming from Nano Loop or something as constrained as LSDJ on the Game Boy, to go from that to this, Milkytracker, it was like it was like taking my foot out of a jar of water and putting it into the ocean. Just so uninhibited. I could lay in all the channels I want. Very, very easy to use and manipulate. So that was it. It was on. Um, so who is BitPusher 2018? Now here we are in 2020. Technically, this marks my 10th year as being BitPusher, and I finally have gotten that itch to start sitting down and rocking a little bit, bringing some bass beats and maybe some chiptune back. So I've moved to Fasttracker II, the modern clone from 8-bit Bubsy at 16bits.org. His clone is supposed to be like spot on of the actual DOS Fasttracker II. And the reason I have chosen Fasttracker II over Milkytracker now is just because Milkytracker has a more modern interface and it's beautiful, but Fasttracker II allows me to easier execute effects on my wave samples, including an echo, which is the one thing I had requested forever ago with Milkytracker, is just give me a way to add some damn reverb without me having to take my sample out, load it up in Audacity, go in and edit that and add the reverb, whatever, and then put it back in the sampler. So I find that I just find the effects management slightly more convenient with Fasttracker II. And then number two, samples. When you dig through all your folders or whatever, find your samples. In Milkytracker, you got to load it up first, and then you can mess with the sounds of it. And I'm not saying that's like a difficult thing, but in Fasttracker II, you literally just click on it. You're not even loading it into your bank yet. Just click on it, and you can play with it right off the rip. It's right, quick and now. So that's some of my reasoning. That, and I've just kind of, I don't know, Fasttracker II fits me pretty well anyway. So um, since I've talked way too much and even bored my fucking self, let's check out what I'm working on so far. I got two cuts I'm going to show you, and I'm going to talk about digital bass, because these kids with this bullshit weak ass hip hop that they're playing now ain't touching real hip hop. I'm sorry, but I guess that's old guy talk. But when it comes to bass, man, they all use these 808s that they pitch them up or pitch them down, the same kick drum samples over and over again, maybe time stretch it a little bit, ghost channel it a bit, do whatever effects, distort it a bit. That's all they got. When it comes to banging in the system, I mean, shit for subwoofers, I like the cleanest, purest bass I can get, because I feel that hits the hardest. And I have occasionally added a touch of distortion to some more, to a sine wave to give it a rougher sound, such as you'll hear in one of these tracks. But yeah, so check it out. I'm going to fire this joint up and let you get just a little taste of the very early pieces of one of the tracks I'm working on. If you got headphones, you're going to hear the bass. If you ain't got headphones, you're just not going to hear it the way it's intended. Next bass sequence, bounce. Love that fucking shit. Alright. So, as one of two. And then the other, which I just started. Oh, no. Alright, so see, key control. very basic right now. I haven't laid in any hi-hats, haven't laid in any of the bass, haven't laid in, I got a lot of shit planned for this one. So this tune will eventually be a banger. But yeah, peep that out. It's one cool thing about trackers that I don't know if people can do that in DAWs or not. I've never seen it, is I can take any sound I want to and play it on my keyboard like it's a keyboard. So the subject of bass, hear that? Right there's the shit. You see how that's moving? Subsonic frequencies. Makes my little PP hard. Can't help it. I just that you see tones like that, or even as low as this. See how it's behaving? This right here is exactly what your subwoofer would be doing in the box. Big time. Except you don't hear any sound. You just feel all this air moving. So for this cut, I'll play that beat one more time. Back up one. Probably gonna chop that down a bit too. So I'm gonna bring some old school boom bap with that one and bring in some bass. But the thing I haven't decided yet is exactly which bass I want to use. And what I mean is that it's a bass CD mostly is what I'm doing. And so everybody, there's going to be plenty of crystal clear boom on there. And occasionally I like to switch it up a little bit. The last bass CDs I did, I occasionally did a little bit of 808 stuff for that classic sound. And by the way, I strongly, strongly recommend you take this seriously if you want something really badass. It's called Audio1. It's an open source and free app that runs on iOS, and I'm sure they make it for Android too. I don't know, but Audio1 is this modular open source synthesizer, and it is massive. I mean, it just has so much sound. Presets and capabilities, and it's really cool. I recorded a lot of sequences out of that. See, I just played a sequence there these are going to be part of a tune. Very cool. So I made a whole folder worth of stuff because I like the sounds. Anyways, I'm going to throw this into the bank here just so you can hear this. You know that sound, right? So I pitch it down a bit. So I don't know if I'm going to bring a bass like that or a proper classic like that. So when it comes to the purity of bass versus the shit that is that all these trap rappers are using now, digital bass. Okay, so my sample looks like this. It's just a solid block. What the hell are we looking at? It's only because it's zoomed out. And I recorded this one myself. I created this sine wave and made it stupid long just so I have a constant tone by just holding in the key. Instead of a sample like a normal sample such as the loops like that. And I could, or even but for bass, you want to see something beautiful? Watch, I'm going to zoom in and you see it coming together. Art, pure art. Zooming in, zooming in. This right here is all it takes to make your system knock hard as hell. That is a perfect sine wave. As you can see in the spec over here, how that pretty much behaves when it's being played, just a lot faster. Love that. Anybody that makes music already knows this stuff, though. I'm just talking about it because it's my vlog and I feel like chatting to my goddamn web camera, so pardon me. But, yep, long bass sample. I generated this purely in software, so there is no noise of any sort to be had. It is the purest and cleanest sine wave possible. Love that shit. That's the reason I'm talking about it, just because I love it very much. Music that contains boom like that, like my all-time favorites, Bass 305, and you go into like Techmaster PEB and even DJ Magic Mike and Bass Mechanic, Beat Dominator, Neil Case. They used bass like this. DJ Billy E. Yep. So I haven't decided which type of boom there I want to use in this track. But yeah, so anyways, yep, I have switched to this from Milkytracker because of this ability to be able to go in and play sounds so quickly. And then on top of my sample editor here too, this is another feature of Fasttracker that Milkytracker doesn't quite have. Let's take my snare here, for example. Find the right. Okay. You have limited editing you can do with a click menu in Milkytracker, which is convenient. You can adjust the EQ of your sample, which I kind of wish I had here because I suppose I see places where that could be handy. But of all the possibilities here, fix the DC offset, I like this. I can add reverb, which is something I always wanted in Milkytracker and don't have there. Bump this shit up a bit. Maybe that was too much, but you get the point. The fact that I can do that so easily. The instrument editor on here is very similar to Milkytracker in that regard. I assume this is probably original Fasttracker, and that's exactly what Milkytracker implemented. Just moved it down some. Anyways, yeah. So there it is. Today's vlog will be done. Just want to talk about dropping that bass and myself, what I got going on, and how this will go. So, yeah, if y'all don't know anything about trackers, I do recommend giving it a shot. I mean, if you're a more serious musician and a little more inclined to use actual DAWs, good for you. You probably have a better shot. But me, this is BitPusher, man. I am underground, aka cheap. Low or no talent, and just simply doing it all these years because I like to do it for the hell of it. I like to say I made an actual album. Even if it's crap, I can still pull up any of my CDs and be like, look at this. This is a real retail disc. I am published. I did it. So that's where all that comes from. But it occurs to me I need to cut that echo back a bit, but I might just apply that to this sample anyway for this cut. Y'all dig that? Stuff like bass, that will definitely make it pretty messy. Fuck it, let's do it. Because I can undo it, but not near so much. Yeah, it doesn't do much to low end. Interesting. Very interesting. But alright, enough vlogging for one day. I'm going to stare at myself on this camera any longer. Go nuts. But peace, y'all. See you around. I don't know the key cut to stop this mofo, but let's try it out.